Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 527, recorded live on Sunday, July 22nd. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have Asheras returning to us.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, welcome back. This week's screenshot, a very nice shot of the moon here. Nutmeg, Quaraveth, and Sinria gaze into space in the 374th screenshot of the week. Very nice little shot there. I'm guessing that's in Font 6.
I would guess so too. That's about one of the places I can think of where you get that view.
Yeah, kind of the space view, as it were. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be sometime next weekend. You can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we can talk about Update 39, that hit. So we can talk about how that was released and all the fun stuff that came with it, and we'll kind of update you on what all that was. We also have Part 4. It'll be the last part of our series on Slayer areas. So we'll wrap that up today with Evilbeeker after the news section of the show. All right, so game news. Like I said, Update 39 hit. I personally haven't had a lot of chance to get really into it. I'm at the tail end of umpiring season, so not quite to a place where I can really commit a lot of time, but I did spend a little bit of time tinkering with some of the bells and whistles. Spending in action points, which we'll talk about more in detail, but because there are a lot of classes got updates here. Brain enhancements got tweaked. Favorite soul enhancements, cleric enhancements. I didn't check my cleric. I don't know if I may have to re-spend enhancements on my cleric.
The cleric stuff was pretty minor.
Yeah, it was, but even then, I mean, the barbarian stuff wasn't the enhancement stuff wasn't terribly a lot, but I still had to re-spend a bunch of action points there. Played around with the Mike a little bit, which we'll talk about in a minute too. So, there's a fair amount of doing to that. The barbarian changes. Speaking of barbarians, the DR change did not make it into Update 39. It needs a bit more work. It just isn't ready yet. They did say that it will not go live until they've had a chance to put it on the mania, which is basically why I didn't make the cut for 39. Generally, they feel that if they need to make changes that require us to alter information on existing characters, like changing damage resistance feats at various class level breakpoints, they don't like to bring that to live without previewing it first, because that could break all of the barbarians in the game.
Sure.
And as amusing as that might be, it would not. And please no. So.
Yeah, I think it's a great change. I know a lot of barbarians are looking forward to it because that DR they had before.
It's a joke.
Just in
this game, it's a joke.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's kind of it's somewhat minimal in 3.5. Which is what DDO is most based on. It's incorporated a lot of other things along the way, but even in 3.5, the DR that you get as a barbarian is kind of lackluster when things start hitting harder. But certainly, I mean, things don't hit nearly as hard as they do in DDO. And what do you get, 5, 6 DR as a barbarian? If you don't take all the enhancement points, and that's not going to do jack or diddly to 1,000 points of incoming damage. So, yeah.
No, there's a lot of things like that just haven't scaled well. Resistances would be another one. The 10 point, 20 point, 30 point resistances that cap out.
Yeah.
Back when cap was 20, those were great and those were practically mandatory. But nowadays,
it's still plenty in lower areas.
It is. Yeah, it's great in heroics, especially the first, say, 12 to 15 levels. But definitely.
Well, you do have MRR, which does kind of mitigate a lot of that.
Yes.
I think the biggest issue I find when we start going down this rabbit hole, which I'll entertain for a little bit, is when you get into things that don't allow a save and mitigation through MRR, like Cyclonic Blast, to name one. Which you can really feel if you try Baba's hut on any Skulls or Reaper, especially as a tank where you've got lots of MRR and you're tanking Baba, she just tickles. The Psychonic Blast hurts a lot.
Yeah.
Like way more damage than anything else that you can take in there. Yeah. There is, though, the newer ship buffs reduce. Don't they take a percentage approach to resistance as well? I thought the new version of the ship buff for resistances absorbed damage and then gave you a little bit less resistance or something like that.
Okay. Well, I know they changed the Favored Soul one, back in the previous update to Ravenloft, to be an absorption versus a resistance. So they seem to be going that direction with things slowly over time, which I think makes sense. It scales a lot better to use percentages.
Let's see. Moving right along. Cosmetics. So with update 39, there's White Plume Mountain and Other Tales. That's the adventure pack. It's free to VIPs. It's an adventure pack. All the rules for adventure packs apply. They also had a bonus items pack, which we talked about last time, which is kind of an interesting idea. It's I kind of like in that it gives you the adventure packs. So it doesn't really change anything there. But it gives them a way to get a little extra monetization out of things. It's like a mini expansion pack, right?
Yeah, I like it. I purchased it on day one within like the first 30 minutes of it going live, and I like it. I mean, the price wasn't that high. If you itemize out what was in the pack, it ends up being a good deal for the bundle.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, it's 1,500 turbine. It's
1495. Yeah,
495 DDO points, and you get cosmetics for everybody, and you get a universal enhancer tree. And aren't Harper and the other Vistani? Can you buy Vistani separate?
I think you can now.
Can you now?
I don't know. Maybe.
I want to say they're like just under 1,000 points or something like that.
I think they're more like 595.
Oh, are they?
Or so.
Less? Okay.
Maybe. Hang on. I can.
We should.
I don't know if I can check. I'm a VI. I think I already have them, so I can't check the store. I'm in game right now, but I'm not sure it'll let me check.
Yeah.
Now one thing you said, one of the frustrations I have is I believe the cosmetics from this pack are BTA, and you only get one of them, so you can't get them on every character.
No, they're supposed to be on every character, I thought.
I think they changed that because in the past they had done it where it was BTC on every character, or it was BTA on every character. But I think this time they're just doing BTA on the first character, and you get one of them and you have to pass it around. I don't know if you can get them on every character.
Well,
I could be wrong.
So this is what they said. They said about this. So this is what they've used before in the past: is one per account BTA, and they've used one per character bind a character. Both have resulted in large player dissatisfaction, so they opted for one per character bound to account.
Okay. With
the idea that if you ever accidentally lose them, you can just roll up a new character and replace them. If you don't want the extra copies, you can just delete them.
Yeah, I like that. That's the perfect solution then, right there. Because like you said, then they don't have to clog up your inventory because you can, if you want them, you can always just roll a new character and grab them. Mm-hmm. So I'm down with that.
Yeah. So that I think is kind of the nicer one. Harper is just under 500 points. The Vistani, if it's available, was supposed to be 500 points, but the wiki just says that it will be available later. Okay. I assume we probably met, but anyways. So it's about 1,000 points for the cosmetics and the other stuff. It's in there. But yeah, so there was kind of a question about that on the forums, and what they said basically was one per account, bound to account, wasn't really working for people because, then one per character bound to character isn't really working for people. So they're going with one per character bound to account, with the idea that you can just, which I think makes sense because if you accidentally lose it, then it's really easy to get it back, like you said.
Now, have you seen the new armor yet? Or have you tried it out?
I haven't worn it. No, I have seen pictures of it, and it looked pretty snazzy.
It does. One thing that I'm frustrated about is that there is another version of it that is like red and black which I think looks really sweet. But that version you can only get through daily dice rolls, and I really have an issue with that's the only way to get it. I'm fine with it being in daily dice rolls as a general, but I think it should be available for sale or in a bundle or something like that, because that really requires you to
sure
play the gambling game to get it, and that's a bummer because, like I said, that one looks really nice.
What I would
I'd love
like to see them do in general is, I'm fine with it being in the daily dice, but then late, like maybe a couple months after that is true, that it would then become available. Like you could just buy it.
Same here. I mean,
it can have that exclusivity for a little while, but especially because I think some of those cosmetics, it's not like you can, like they rotate in and out, so you can't get some of the older ones. From that way anymore.
I agree.
So
I agree with you. I think that their art department's amazing, and they do some great work on some of their cosmetics. Amazing. And I think it's also a great way to monetize the game without power creep or anything like that. I know it doesn't appeal to everyone, but that's fine. I think there's a large segment that it does appeal to. And I think the Ravenloft bundle packs showed that there's a lot of people who really do enjoy those, because those packs had a lot more cosmetics in them than I think the previous 2 expansions did.
You think people are buying them for the cosmetic?
I think there are some who do. I think
that was not why I bought it. I think there's other stuff that was compelling.
There was. I think that I didn't like that Scourge was only available in one of the higher tiers. I think that anything I would consider to be core functionality of the game, like enhancement trees, iconic races, classes. Pardon?
I thought you were going to be able to get it separately.
You should be able to get it separately eventually, yeah. I don't know if it's available now or not. I mean, I know Ravenloft itself is available now for points, but I don't know about Scourge.
I thought it was available separately.
That's good. I mean,
it's hard for me to tell because I already have it. So
yeah, same here.
In the store, yeah, I agree. You know, the bundles are great, and you definitely should. Like, they definitely should be trying to make money, because if they're not making money, we're gonna not be able to play the game. And I'm not in favor of that. So make money, standing some games. We want you to do that. But yeah, exclusive stuff is really tricky. Which is one of the things I liked about what they did with, like there are a few things that are completely exclusive to the Ravenloft bundles, but you can still get them. They are not limited time only, which is great. So there were some limited time only stuff in some of the future previous expansions, but those are really just the Panther and the Owlbears, I think, at this point. So, which are great and handy, but also we've got like 5 of those things now. 6.
I can full party.
There's the lion. There's the lion, the panther, the 2 owlbears, and the 2 scarecrows. That's 6 inventory slots on every single one of my characters.
Yeah, and that's a challenge. Yeah, I think that was another issue too with the BTC cosmetics.
Yeah,
we could definitely use a hireling and pets, like I guess they go in the hireling folder, don't they?
I have no idea. I've never actually gotten a hireling folder.
I haven't either.
I should test this theory because inventory is a thing.
Yeah, it is.
Anyways, back to what we were talking about, so we don't get too far off track here and not finish the show before other things today. Yeah, I think we can all agree that this method is probably a lot better because if you lose it, you can get it back pretty easily. I would bet that if you had something you had purchased from an expansion pack, one of the cosmetics, and you accidentally deleted it, or you deleted it and you wanted another one, you could probably get in touch with customer service, and they would probably send you a new one. I can't guarantee that, but I would
suspect so too.
I would be surprised if they didn't. It might take them a month and a half or 2 months, but
it's been a long time since I tested this, but as I recall back in the day, it was actually impossible to get rid of the spider cult mask. I would try to throw it away, and it would show up in my my mail the next day.
Oh, that's funny.
They kept giving it back to me. You dropped this. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I did realize I had 2 on one character. And I was like, oh, look, these are bound to account. Get rid of those. Get those off of this character that I'm chain TRing. Not use it. Yeah, I'm terrible at throwing stuff away just because I don't, if you throw it away, you can't get it back later. And some of those cosmetic ones in particular, I'm not a huge cosmetic person, but you never know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving right along. The surprise. So, Severlin mentioned a surprise in his producer's letter earlier this year. And Cordovan also mentioned a surprise in a live stream before Update 39 Mania first preview. I think this was Coco Majobo jumped on the forum and said that the surprise mentioned by Cordovan, he believes was the Falconry Universal Enhancement tree. The surprise, the surprise Severlin has mentioned has not yet happened, so he encouraged people to still build up the speculation. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because that's what we need. More speculation. All right, so let's go through the Update 39 release notes. We've covered most. We're just going to kind of go through these. Asheras, I don't think it was on the show since we've talked about some of this stuff at least. So he'll jump in here if there's anything he wants to talk about. We'll stop in a couple places. I have not had a chance to run the quests. I don't know. Have you run the quests yet?
I have. They are very good quests. They remind me more of Ravenloft Chains 1 and 2, more so than Chain 3 or Disciples of Rage. There are a lot of unique mechanics in here. There are a lot of interesting graphics. There's some new mobs. It's a lot of fun. I really like what they were doing, especially if you haven't had a chance yet. The Price of Freedom, I found to be a very enjoyable quest.
That's probably the most controversial based on my reading the forums.
It is. Well, people don't like Mario stuff, and there is a Mario thing in there, but the way they did the Mario thing was very unique. I really liked that a lot. I don't think the only one I haven't run, I think, is kind of a big deal. But Another Man's Treasure was interesting, although, of course, it involves kobolds, which I won't give you my full kobold rant because that would take a half an hour. But just to generally sum up, I'm tired of kobolds.
Yeah.
But going to White Plume Mountain, which is kind of the showpiece of this,
I would hope
very fun quest, very enjoyable, lots of unique mechanics. Some things I'm surprised that they were able to do. They've done some new stuff there. Lots of encounters that involve things besides combat. So, which I think is kind of a staple of the classic modules. Is that they have things that go beyond that. So,
I'll give you that for Haunted Halls. I'm not sure if Temple of Elemental Evil and
no
Slave Lords are. I mean, there's other stuff. Temple of Elemental Evil feels like one giant Slayer area to me. There's a lot of killing because of all the mobs and the scaling stuff. The Assault on the Slave Lords, it feels like a hack and slash adventure with a couple of little Easter eggs in it.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel. Haunted Halls is the one that really feels like a D&D dungeon to me. This
one's more like Haunted Halls than those because the stuff that you and I talked about when we reviewed Slave Lords, which is, hey, the bear's cool the first time around, but it's really just there for flavor. It's not really, a part of the challenge. They did that with White Plume Mountain. The cool things are now a part of the challenge again. And if you're a parent, you know how they always say kids have phases. Clearly SSG went through a phase and TOEE was in that phase where it was like, let's do 10 mobs every 10 feet, 10 mobs every 10 feet. And there was a whole bunch of content around that time frame that was very similar to that, culminating with the Dragonborn quests.
We should mention there was a hotfix, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but so we had 5 new quests. By my count, 4 of them have had issues with completions.
Yeah.
So not the smoothest rollout, guys.
One thing I will mention, and we did bug report this, but we were running White Plume Mountain, and White Plume Mountain name chest will drop the 1,000 sentient XP stones. And I had 2 different party members who, when they got that, could not loot it by clicking on it. It would give them an error message that says item cannot be contained. And what we found though was that if you click loot all, you will be able to loot the stone and of course everything else, but you can't individually click it. So if you're one of those people who only grabs the name stuff and leaves the gems and the vendor trash in the box, then you're not going to be able to do that when you get a sentient XP stone.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was the Falconry Universal Enhancement Tree, which landed. You have to buy the bonus items to get it. One of the things in the bonus items pack. We were talking about this a little bit beforehand. The tree looks great. Can I please have more action points? Dear Lord.
Yeah, we're desperately ready for AP tomes and so on. Although that would introduce some power creep surely, and would create some issues with being able to get eventually maybe 2 capstones or something like that. Or you can't get that because of your levels, but things like that can become a problem. Certain things are gated.
They can lock out that you can only take 1 capstone, like you can only take 1 tier 5.
Yeah,
I mean that's not necessarily a problem.
Yeah.
So, and taking 2 capstones requires you to spend 80. I mean that's technically already. Well, I guess it's not plausible yet because you need 82 points to do that. But there's ways around that. But there's a lot of compelling stuff in that. I was playing around with it on my monk, trying to spend some points and getting 1 capstone and getting a Shinto capstone took 41 points, and then getting the Incorp clicky takes another 11 action points, and then getting the +1 passive key out of Henshin Mystic took some number, and then he's an Azamar, so he needed the regenerating healing hands with 7 points, and I was scraping the barrel to get to wisdom to hit, which is really what I wanted.
Yeah.
More action points. I'm a fan of. I agree with like the devs had this stance that choices are good, it makes more compelling things to choose from, more builds. I completely agree. Can I please have more action points?
Yeah,
and can I make fewer choices, please?
Well, what's interesting to me is that the Falconry tree, when I first saw it, I really was a fan of the concept. It's very creative, the idea of having this bird, and I think that's going to appeal to some people.
I was surprised how big that bird is.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, and the fact that you can pick different ones is nice. I mean, I think that there's the visual aspect which a lot of people will enjoy, and then there's just this tree hits some weak spots in other enhancement trees. It's not you're not going to see a lot of pure, there's not a lot of crit range increases, there's not a lot of melee power, there's not a lot of double strike here, which are kind of the the 3 pillars of DPS, if you will. But there's a lot of cool, unique special attacks. There's a lot of interesting things that it's doing that I think can really fit in well with other classes or other builds that might have those weaknesses. Perhaps you don't have as many AoE attacks in your base class, or you don't have as much crowd control in there, and you can come to this tree to get those. I think it's a really interesting supportive tree. I've not really seen the build yet that would make this a centerpiece tree though, where it would be I'm taking 35 40 points in this tree and using its tier 5, but I really like what it can do with a 10 to mid 20s point investment, maybe like as a replacement to what you do on a Tempest. Instead of Deepwood Sniper, you go into this tree a little more, or with a Kensai. Kensai is still your main, but rather than doing as much in SD or something, you're coming into here.
I haven't played with my Archer, my Ranger yet, but he might dabble into this tree because there's some nice crowd control-y stuff in here. It's not some of the bigger stuff, but the crowd control-y stuff might be kind of fun.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, moving right along. Crystal Cove item update. The event is coming soon. That's all I said. I'm not going to bother reading the paragraph because we've already talked about that stuff. There's some changes to Daily Dice, which I think we mostly talked about. You talked about the cosmetics. So there's new cosmetics. Hopefully they'll all come to stuff later.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Could have scrolled down and read this earlier. So so from the White Plume bonus pack, the cosmetic stuff is bound to account and delivered to the inventory of every character on your account the first time you log into the game world with them after purchasing the pack. So the Sentient XP stones are bound to account and delivered to the inventory of the first character. So that's how that works. I think we kind of covered all of the action. None of the action point stuff did I see looked like it was changed. Was there anything that you want to chime in about?
I really like what they did with barbarians and giving them the expanded critical bonuses and such. I think those were an amazing boost for barbarians who desperately needed something. That I thought they were a little lacking when I played them. The favored soul stuff, I love what they've done with Angel of Vengeance. You know, I'm a big favored soul guy. It's one of my 2 favorite classes, and I respect my favorite soul immediately, and I've been playing with it. You know, it's just she's always been a DC casting sort of favorite soul, and I love what they did with the Archon. The Archon hits harder now, not too hard, but I mean it's actually useful. I actually make an effort to summon it now, whereas before I would often ignore it. The extra DCs are great. You know, I've noticed that those help out a lot. The SLAs are huge. Yeah, it's really been nice. I really feel like the class has a lot more power in the DC casting area. I played with Beacon of Hope, and I love that tree as well.
Again, I need more action points. Damn it!
Oh yeah, and having the Wall of Healing sitting in tier 5, I mean that's killing me because I want tier 5 in Angel of Vengeance, and I can't have it.
Choices are good.
I know their choices are good. Yeah.
Swallow it and say it.
I know. There's a lot of. It's great when you have 2 trees on a class and you want the tier 5 in both, and you can't have it. I know there's a lot of talk on the forums about, can we please move the healing aura out of tier 5 down to tier 4 so we can get it on our melee clerics and so on and so forth, and but those, like you say, those choices are good.
If you did that, everyone would be playing the same character. For each class, then it would be boring. And that's not the point of D&D in general. Is that you're supposed to have different character builds and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I think with the favorite soul, I really enjoy playing the Angel of Vengeance tree heavily when I'm running 6-man content or soloing. But I'm interested when we start doing some of the higher R5, R6, R7, Baba, and Strahd, how the Beacon of Hope will play as a healer with the healing wall, and how that can maybe affect some of our strategy in certain areas. So
what I'm noticing for myself, first, just with the favorite soul tree, like the fact that Sunbolt is now like tier 3 as opposed to Capstone and one specific.
That's
deity.
Amazing.
It's huge.
Sunbolt's that's such a great spell.
It's such a huge change. But what I'm noticing is like, so if you give me a class, right, and 3 trees, fine. Like, I don't have any problem spending my action points. When I start trying to slip in that 4th tree, whether it's a racial tree or one of these new universal enhancement trees, it all goes to hell in a handbasket, and I need more points.
Well,
that's where I start to break down.
Right now, so far, Harper is kind of, shall we say, underwhelming tree that's mainly there. The intelligence, to hit damage and KTA is probably the primary focus of it. And then we've got 2 other trees, which are mostly melee, and I think the falconry can do ranged as well, but they're physical damage based. It'll be interesting to see if we can get a universal tree that's more caster based, and what that'll do from an AP standpoint for your clerics, favored souls, warlocks,
it's a good idea for the next universal enhancement tree. Is a kind of more of a castery type tree. I agree.
Yeah,
but good lord, they're gonna need to give us more than 80 at some point, because the choices are becoming maddening.
Yeah.
No, Harper, unless you were intelligence based, you kind of can safely ignore it. Vistani, unless you're dagger based, you can kind of safely ignore it. The falconry tree, unless you're wisdom based, you can safely ignore it. The problem is that you're getting more and more archetypes into the, if you're not this, you can safely ignore it, and you're kind of starting to hit the ones that more and more people have. So it's getting a little more challenging.
I will say on the War Soul side, I was disappointed. I spent some time on Lamania, and I really didn't like the changes they made to the War Soul. It just wasn't. They added a little bit of like double strike here, and they changed the divine power a little bit to be a sacred bonus, which I didn't really understand, because I think when you're looking at a War Soul, obviously the charisma and the wisdom to hit and damage that it gets is kind of a unique and compelling thing that I think a lot of people are going to be playing with. So then why does this thing only give +6 strength? Why does it give +6 wisdom or charisma as a castable item? And they just really didn't do anything with it. I kind of have the same issue with War Priest, that these are basically lackluster DPS trees. And I understand why they're not going to be as good as a Kensai or a Tempest because of the utility and the self-healing that the base class has in its spellcasting abilities. But that doesn't mean it has to just be a weak DPS tree. I think that Swashbuckler is not a strong DPS tree by itself in terms of it doesn't have, a lot of double strike. It doesn't have a lot of melee power, but what it does is it does a lot of special attacks. It does a lot of, it has on guard. It has endpoint. It has coup de grace. It has all these different.
Importantly, it gives you a combat style.
Yeah, it gives
that's
your combat
the big thing
style.
about that, and then you can couple it with a bunch of other things but that combat style makes it really work better. The problem with the Favored Soul War Soul tree is it's so, and I think the cleric one too, but they're so dependent on their favorite weapon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the favored weapons are by and large not good. I mean, Sylvanas handle.
You can. Yeah. It's based on your race, isn't it? Or
yeah,
like it's based on your deity, which is halfway based on your race. So.
Mm-hmm. Or based on what world you're in. Yeah. I mean, there's some that you can only access with an iconic. I mean, Sylvanas gives you the maul bonus, but outside of that, there's really, and then the scimitars as a base weapon are already good, probably. But other than that, the rest of them are really not weapons you really want to be using regularly. Like one of them's a sickle. I mean, that's not useful. And obviously, who's Orion has a great level 6 active thing, which gives wisdom and some other stuff, but that's going to be limiting on your race. So the whole thing really doesn't work super well. I think that and the bonuses they give you in the tree for that don't scale well. So I really think they could have done more with both classes to really align what's interesting about a cleric with what a melee cleric could be, and what's interesting about a favored soul and what a favored soul melee could be. And I think clerics are better off because they have the domains, and the domains allow them to kind of tinker with that a little bit. They can get more, raw power out of them. They can get more utility out of them, or they can get more synergy out of them. And that's interesting. But the favored souls are really in a bad spot because they don't have that. I think Steelstar mentioned that they might look again at War Soul down the road. But
I think he was talking about trying to break open the deity weapon part of it.
Yeah, which I would love to see. I mean, I would love to see the deity weapons be more useful and be more important to them, because it is so limiting to say this is the only weapon you can use, weapon type you can use all throughout 1 through 30 in order to really be effective. So if you're going to put that limitation on there, especially with the weapon types you've got, and then the racial and all that sort of thing, either open that up so it's not so limiting, or really give them some power to make that choice worthwhile. Because right now the choice just isn't worthwhile. I can't imagine playing a melee favored soul. I mean,
I tried it a few times. It was terrible.
Yeah,
couldn't make it work.
And caveat, not that you can't get through, elite and heroics 1 through 20 with it. I'm sure you could, but it's just the difference between what it can do versus what anything else can do. I mean, I would much rather splash in 6 Tempest or 6 Kensai and go to town with that.
It has limiting factors that are pretty strong and not worth what you're getting for it, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of been a problem with the DD weapon, tying stuff to DD weapons. It's just so limiting. You just don't have very many choices. Now, if you could just pick your deity much more freely, you would have more options there. But even then, the DD weapons aren't all that great to begin with. So, some other stuff I want to highlight from the release notes. I think we talked about this before, but Haunted Halls of Unity Star with the Doppelganger puzzle, it now waits for a player to use the first door in the dungeon to set itself up. That should limit the possibility of the Doppelganger failing to spawn. So if you get there and you can't figure out why it's not working, make sure you open the door. Teleport now goes to the lower necropolis, and Greater Teleport now has additional options to take you to places it normally does without requiring you to be in an instance. However, those are single target. The obvious reason being so you can't grief people and send them willy-nilly. You have to be in an instance to send them somewhere that they don't want to go, which you can totally do.
Yep.
If someone casts Greater Teleport on you, make sure you read the text box, because occasionally they may be sending you somewhere where you don't really want to go.
Yep. Oh, hey, did you skip over the fact that Stunning Blow, Trip, and Improved Trip now have DCs on their tooltip.
I think we talked about that before, but yeah, that's always helpful.
That's a huge change. I think Linabelle did that, and thank you very much, Linabelle.
I think there's a few more things that she needs to do that too, but yeah.
Implosion, please. If you're listening, Implosion. I'm tired of having to look at Blade Barrier to figure it out.
And then do math.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was a hotfix on Thursday, which corrected. There was a game crashing issue in White Plume Mountain, which I think was like crashing not just people in that instance, but like people.
The game.
Yeah, it was crashing a lot of people. So that was kind of a problem. So they did some stuff with that. See, they corrected an in-game link to the store with the Universal Enhancement Tree for Falconry. They fixed Price of Freedom. They can fix an issue that would break Another Man's Treasure. And I think there's still another one that came up after the patch for the Memory Lapse one, I think, was the one that it was having problems. But I'm not positive on which one it was.
Yeah, I encountered the one in The Price of Freedom on opening night. It was not fun. We spent about 45 minutes to an hour in there, and then couldn't complete. But that's okay. We had a great time, and the next night we got a completion.
Yeah. There's also a Mac issue. So some users on newer Macintosh models may be encountering an issue when installing or patching DDO that does not allow that process to complete properly. The symptom of this would be your launcher appearing to attempt to patch before stopping with an error stating internal error. If that's happening to you, it may be resolved by installing NetSession. So they gave you a link in that, and we'll link to this forum post so you can get that. I think that was fixing most people, but I know they're kind of still trying to figure out how to fix it and get more information from people. So. All right. Anything else you want to say about update 29 or 39?
No, I think we're not really doing a true review of it because it's so new, but I've really enjoyed a lot of it so far. It's especially the creativity of the content. If they keep this level of content development up, I'll be very happy.
So will a lot of other people. So bonus day is due today, July 22nd. You can get 15% heroic and epic XP boost along with double mysterious remnants. The store sales for the week, the summer sales this week, 35% off of Greater Tome of Epic Learning. Good time to get that. 50% off for Delara's Tomb and alignment changes, and 75% off the Mines of Death Yamar. If you haven't bought that yet, now would be the time. I doubt you'll see it more than 75% is usually the most that stuff gets discounted. You can also,
that's a great deal.
You can also get a boost, 20% off of Sovereign XP elixirs, Treasure Hunter elixirs, and Greater Lasting Supreme Ability potions. And you can also get 5 free Resist Fire potions with the coupon code NOFIRE. All that is through July 26th. So lots of fun stuff there. Community news: the 292nd Chronicle. Hephaestus has a new base of operations for a blog on WordPress, Hef's Forge. He's been on the show a couple of times, so if you want to check out what he's writing about, you can do that there. Let's see, PB's Random Armor Guide for Cosmetic Lovers. You can check that out. A lot of armors to choose from these days. Let's see. The comment for the week. Who is your favorite hireling? One of the permanent
favorite
ones.
hireling? I would probably actually go with the Panther.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've always liked that one.
I don't pay attention much to hirelings. I pick whatever the level appropriate healer is based on what stuff they have, but I couldn't tell you what their names are or anything like that.
Lately, one of the most useful ones has been the highest level rogue you can get. I think it's a drow of some sort.
Sure.
Because in Amber Temple, finding those secret doors so you can go the shorter paths is huge. So.
Or you can just take search as a skill. Yeah. Let's see, fansite news. So here we go. Mickey's Raids had week 81. Sips had a new blog post for Don't Fear the Reaper. DDO Players News had they're back. Welcome back, guys. Episode 184 was this week. Streamed with Even, doing flagging with for Shroudapalooza. She and Bonnie are going to be doing that in the next couple months. Tone Station played an adventure from White Plume Mountain. DDO Wiki Talk had episode 112 with Shoemaker. Fridays on Ice and with Bachelor and Brock and Friends also were playing as well. And we got a shout out for episode 526, our part 3 of our Slayer areas. Let's see. If you're going to Gen Con, there is a meetup, an official meetup. They are Standing Stone Games is renting a place. Those people can meet from, I think it's 7 to 10 local time at Gen Con, but it'll be on Friday. So make sure to check that out if you're in the area. You do not need a pass for Gen Con to go to that. It's off-site so that you can join and everything. Let's see. Axel had also put out a video, his initial thoughts on Update 39, so you can check out what he had to say. We had him on last week as well. It's kind of before Update 39 came out, though. Let's see. Other stuff going on. So DDOCast will be back this week and the next week, and then we'll be gone for probably just August. Maybe back late August, but plan on there not being DDOCast in August, and in September we'll come back with, quote, Season 4, for lack of a better term. It's just kind of convenient to restart the numbering and kind of reset things a little bit.
Sure.
But we'll be back for that shortly. And also, the D&D night is... the first one is pretty much right after... I mean, literally the time of this recording in 15 minutes. So if you're listening to this live, you can go watch that. But I'm sure that'll be available in other places as well afterwards, not just on Twitch for a week and then going poof. But you can check that out as well. All right, that kind of brings us to the end of the news portion. Anything you want to plug here before we head out?
No, I'm good.
All right, then. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for Asheras for joining me and all the other contributors for DDOCast. And thanks to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast for hosting the podcast, and to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast for making DDO, Cyberears for hosting the podcast. Let's see. I've got this thing so memorized that it just kind of jumbles around sometimes. It's great. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO, you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email me at ddocast@gmail.com. Other fun stuff you can find at DDOcast.com. Show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, all that kind of thing. If you'd like to be part of the show, have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, maybe there's a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave a comment, email us at ddocast@gmail.com. I read almost all of those that I get, unless they're like totally mean or something like that. So, with that, stay tuned. This is part 4 of our topic on Slayer areas. All right, we're back for round 4 of Slayer Areas. I'm your host, Patrick. With me again this week is Evilbeeker. Welcome back.
Howdy ho.
Nice little marathon recording session here we're going on. All right, so last time we talked about the first half of kind of the epic wilderness areas, as it were. And now we're going to continue. We'll wrap this up today. We've got 5 more to hit. The first one is Wayland Prison. It's level 25, range 21 to 29. So this is the highest level one that you can get dinged for having a level 30 in your party. But this is a pretty good one, I find. You're probably going to get a lot of Slayers just running to the quests. As you mentioned last time, you can port with shards, but I think most people tend not to.
And if you have the quest, the arrow points you to where you need to go. Mm-hmm. So it's just a question of which rooftop you got to jump to or which alleyway you got to sneak through, which can get annoying sometimes, but not usually you get there eventually.
I think when I do the chain, I usually have at least 400 to 750 kills in here, if you're actually stopping to kill stuff. So it can give you a lot of nice bonus XP. There's also a bunch of little the explorers you can kind of find on the way to the quest and stuff like that.
Well, and one thing we didn't mention with the heroics, because this is the Shadowfell area, it switches to the Shadowfell, which can be a little bit disorienting. Graphically annoying and disorientating as well. And then there's also a purple worm that you can fight in one area. And the epic one is pretty brutal. But yeah, it's I would recommend going into this one with a group of at least a couple of people, but you can take hirelings.
There is a chest to watch out for. One of the rares, you get attacked by shadows at a chest, and you'll probably get about, it's got to be like 100 or 50 shadows at least. If you got a full party. Again, scaling applies here, so you'll get the more people in your party, the larger the mob sizes will be. Which, while we're talking about that, we should probably mention Dungeon Lord applies in Slayer areas. And when you're talking about group scaling, that can actually work against you.
Yeah, so there is that, and there is no Reaper in Slayer areas. We probably should have led with that a few episodes ago, but which, because of the way that the Reaper, the DDO community is kind of split into, hey, I like to do only Reaper, I like to do some Reaper. Yeah, the Slayer areas, no Reaper.
Which, I mean, most of the people that really like running Reapers, they don't mind in the sense that there's the XP out of these places can be really fantastic anyways, so they're willing to kind of go to ignore that part of it. Probably not the most challenging thing you'll end up doing, but it's still a popular place to go. But yeah, I like Wayloon in Epics. It's a good little spot to get a couple of kills. Like I said, you'll probably end up with 400 to 700 kills just by running the quest if you kill things on the way too. So it's really not too hard of a place to go in. It doesn't have an endless spawn point that people like from King's Forest, but.
And actually, and I might have mentioned this on a previous episode, we now with the silver and gold rolls, I mean, I get a Slayer pot maybe once every 2 weeks. Save those up for when you gotta jump in these quests, or if you're not doing Slayer areas, you can just drink it right away if you don't want it in your inventory, because it doesn't expire unless you go into a Slayer area.
Yeah, I like doing a Slayer potion and hitting. I usually don't go all the way up to 7,500. I'll usually get up to 3,000 and then go do something. My attention span for doing 7,500 kills in the same little area is not great. Yeah. But you can drink a Slayer pot and go to a couple of different places and kind of change up the scenery, as it were. Let's see, Stormhorns is level 27, an epic. It's level 27, range 23 to 31, so you can bring in level 30s in here and not have any problems. I actually really like this explorer area.
But if you're first lifers and you're in the lower end of this range, beware. Sure. The one thing that the Stormhorns really lacks is shrines. So your distance between shrines is pretty large. In fact, 2 shrines in Stormhorns?
There's only 2 shrines in Stormhorns? There's got to be more than that.
No, 3. There's 3.
If you're at...
no, there's 3.
Lines of Supply, I think, has a shrine right at the beginning, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's one right at the beginning. There's one right before the Knoll quest. One of the Knoll quests. And then there's one towards the very end. Right before
they're spread out. There's more than there's another one I think it's kind of in the north of Tracker's Trap, I think. But in any case, it's pretty expensive. This is one of those areas that because it's competing with Orchard Macabre and Ruins of Thunderholm. I don't think it gets as much love. But you can get a full party in here running around. You can really rack up some XP in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
The bonuses are, it's better XP per rank than the ones before, obviously. I don't know if it goes as high. But because you're splitting, I think part of the reason why people don't like it as much is you're splitting up your kills between 2 different tracks.
Right.
And if you're doing like what a lot of people do is, they get up to level 30 and then they reincarnate maybe they reincarnate 2 or 3 times in Epic and then do a true reincarnation to kind of clear everything and get the first time bonus and stuff. But no, Stormhearts is a good little spot. The mob density is pretty solid when you get a full party, particularly in the upper areas with the army stuff. And the mobs are, you're dealing with giants and orcs and some
wizards.
Natural creatures. Yeah, some wizards. But nothing's like, we talk about things. There's some mob selections that are a little bit harder on some people. The mob selection here is pretty across the board easy for everybody, right? Runes of, there's no undead that you need to use specific weapons for, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, if you're going to compare this one to Runes of Thunderhome, yeah, the next 3, this one is probably your easier. Do this one first. Get your feet wet.
And again, it's a beautiful area to be in. So, Orchard of Macabre, level 29, level range 20 to 33. I think it goes all the way down to 20 for some reason. Although I don't know that necessarily matters. In any case, this is the mob density in here is really good. But the mob selection is actually surprisingly difficult. You have a lot of quells, which can really hamper your self healing.
Yep.
There's a lot of casters. The liches are unreal.
Well, and then you get the rare portals, and the portals will spawn elementals and other nasty stuff that comes out in large waves. This is a tough one.
This is an easy place to get on a dungeon alert too, because Stormhorns, the mob density is pretty good, but they're spread out a little bit more. Orchard Macabre, there's several places where you can aggro one group, and there's a group that's just in range that will notice that and then come as well. And if you get into 3 or 4 parties, you can really get a quick dungeon alert, which can cause you some problems too. So it's something to be aware of in here. Retreat into the directions you've already come. You'll really get in trouble. But the like I said, the mob selection is more challenging here, I think, because those quells will get a lot of people with their self healing abilities.
Yeah, and if you're not teleporting to the quests, especially here on Epic, that's a hard pill, because there are, on a couple of them, there's no shrines before the quests.
Sure. There's also the liches do a large burst AoE damage. They can get you pretty good. So this mob selection, you're dealing with undead, which means there's a lot of damage reduction and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tougher, but it's a really popular one too, because you can crank out again mob density, so you can really crank things out pretty good.
Yeah, and this is also, if you're an Epic cleric, this is a great place to test your turning ability.
Sure. So
go in here once a level and see how well you do. And that'll kind of give you a benchmark for where you are as far as turning undead goes.
The one advice I give to kind of help control the mob numbers is drag groups to you. Don't necessarily go to groups where you can avoid it. That'll help you kind of keep the alert down a little bit.
And that's kind of a mantra for a lot of these Slayer areas, If you're not sure what lies beyond a certain point, shoot it with a ranged weapon and see what happens. With the worst case scenarios, they all come to you. Whereas sometimes, the guy that's 10 feet away from him might not pull at the same time.
All right, let's talk about Runes of Thunderhome. This is level 29, range 20 to 33.
I'm going to say that this is the toughest one. I know Barovia goes up to 35, but if you don't know anything about Thunderhome and you're going in here the first time, and you're maybe in low epics, not capped or anything, those undead groups of undead are pretty darn tough. and the rares hit really hard, and the end guy to get into is that Deathworm?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've gotten smoked there multiple occasions.
What really helps against that one is don't go directly in and fight her. Go around the perimeter first and kill all the other stuff that'll come help her.
Exactly. But there's other rares in this one, and it's not an easy one to remember either. There's several levels. It's kind of like imagine kind of like squares of levels almost. Where if you go down this set of stairways, you go this way. If you go down this set of stairways, you go this way. If you're trying to find the Shadow Forge, is that what it's called?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Where you can create your shadow armor, Thunderhome armor. There's the paths to remember where to go. If you don't go in there on a regular basis, you can forget it pretty easily. Barovia is more of a traditional outdoor area, whereas Thunderhome is more like a dungeon, but then it opens up into giant areas as well. So it makes it really difficult. And this is another one with very limited number of shrines in it. So you can find yourself drinking pots pretty quickly if you're a spellcaster.
The thing about Thunderhome is it's a raid area, which means you can't use hirelings, or right. So that can limit some of your options.
If you're in a raid group, no, but you can if you're regular.
It's a raid area.
Is it okay?
The other part is I think it scales raid like a raid, which means it doesn't scale down. Like the mob difficulty doesn't scale down.
No, the mobs are horrible.
But the density will scale up as you get more people in your party. But you're fighting a lot of skeletons, especially the first part. So you got bludgeoning damage. It reduces some of the crowd control stuff. Undead in general, like Orchard Macabre, there's a lot of undead, so there's a lot of things that aren't going to work very well. There's also the battle ragers, which can knock you down and slow you down, which can be problematic for some people.
Yep. There's war wizards. There's necromancers. What do they call them? Netheries, archwizards. There's some nasty stuff in this one, and I don't know. For me, that I always thought this was a little bit on the more difficult side.
Well, it's level 29, right? So you're talking about some of the stuff we've been talking about, where Wayloon, maybe you're coming in and it's level 25, but you're coming in at level 27, 28. Right. You can't really over-level Ruins of Thunderhome because it's level 29. So, you're probably doing this under level, if anything, which is going to make the challenge a little bit more difficult.
Right. And it's one of those kind of areas where if you get to a certain level, you're like, oh, okay, well, let's go over here. Oh, I just was in the Stormhorns. Oh, what's this? Because they're right next to each other. And you're like, oh, let's go in here once and see what happens. And you get to the first zombie encounter and boom, 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 you're dead. Yeah. So.
But it is a really popular place to go. And then part of that is you can have up to 12 players in here, which means you can have 12 people killing stuff instead of 6 people killing stuff. Or probably more accurately, 9 people killing stuff and 3 people standing at the door. But
right, and if you're a Pale Master, one of my favorite items for Pale Masters in here, the Deathworm Cloak. Mm-hmm. So
this one has named items. There's not a lot of them, but it has some named items.
3.
Yeah,
looking at the list right now. Yeah, Dagon's Mallet, Deathworm Cloak, and the Gloaming Filter.
Which is kind of a weird esoteric item.
Yeah, it's been sitting in my inventory for a while now, and I've been wondering if I should just feed it to my sentient jewels.
I used it on my druid a little bit, but they just changed it so you can't use ranged weapons as a druid in form. So a little bummer. It didn't really do a whole lot. It's a neat little item, but it practically doesn't
do anything.
It doesn't shine.
No,
it does stuff, but it doesn't. It's not. It's
people won't go out of their way to get one. You get one and you're like, oh, this is neat. I'll hold on to it and maybe do something.
If you showed up at a racetrack and I gave you a standard car that you could buy at a dealer, the car it works. It's
Sure.
functional. It's not a particularly great, effective way to run a race against race cars, right?
Nope. That's exactly it.
So,
but it's also so this area also gives you access to the 2 raids, so Fire on Thunder Peak and Temple of Deathworm. I always remember if you want to go to Fire on Thunder Peak, you can to flag for it. You have to do
kill Dagon.
You have to kill Dagon, which is at the very
Top.
bottom.
Where up.
Yeah.
So this is a fun place to like explore if you get in a Slayer group when you kind of run around. If you're doing a Slayer group with this, I highly recommend don't just go the same route every time. Go a different path. Check out the different corners.
Yeah. Finding the explorers in this one is kind of tough too. There's a lot of little side chambers, and one of them
is not that many either. Like you talk about the Stormhorn, how big the Stormhorns. There's 45 explorers. The Winds of Thunderhorn only has 20, and it's not that small.
Yeah, and like I said, some of them are hidden pretty well. Like you have to go under a pool of water or in a corner behind something.
Yeah. Just a really quick tip: if you are looking to flag for the raids, so mobs, not just density, but the toughness of the mob scales with how many people you get in the party. So I've actually been in a situation where I've been down killing one of the bosses that you have to kill to flag someone. Someone else steps in, and the boss suddenly gets 10,000 hit points. So maybe be mindful of that. Also, if you port to Temple of Deathworm, the boss will not spawn, so you will not be able to kill her to flag people. Just FYI. All right, that will bring us to Barovia on Epic, the last Slayer area. We've hit them all.
Which I have not done very much of. Only because we're again.
You can port directly to the quests.
Exactly. Yeah. So what a lot of people think is cool can be a downside when it comes to being a Slayer area. Now I've taken a couple of my heroic guys through just on an evening just to see, just to sightsee, run through. I think I snapped a few screenshots that I used in D&D night on DDO stream. That's cool mist right there. Oh, this is a cool house right here. But on the Epic side, I haven't done much other than, hey, everything hits a lot harder.
Yeah, this has become it's slowly becoming really popular for Slayers, actually.
Okay.
There's a couple people that I run with that have like, oh, you know what, we actually get more XP in the same amount of time in Barovia than we do in like Orchard and Thunderholm if we got a full party and stuff like that. Because you still have the same spawning mechanics and stuff like that. It's a much larger area. You have to do a little bit more running between groupings, I think, and they're more like Ruins of Thunderholm. If you've run it enough times, you know exactly where the mobs are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't randomly spawn in different places or anything like that. It's the same groupings of mobs. It's just how many people do you have equals how many there are there. But in Barovia, they kind of move around a little bit more, I think. I haven't really played around with it a lot either.
Well, there's the one rare that spawns when you teleport to the castle that is a real pain in the you-know-what. Because it spawns groups of zombies, and then you kill one, then another one comes, and you kill one, and another one comes. But it's like I'm teleporting to the quest, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're attacked. Sure.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming a little more popular. Like we talked about the Rogue one. Like the ambience is really, the environment is really great. Really puts you in the Ravenloft kind of mood. The fun thing about this one too, though, is you can teleport to different areas of the map really easily, right? Just teleport to different quests.
Right. You take the teleport to the quest. It doesn't necessarily put you in the quest. It puts you outside of it, and then you go from there. And if you happen to, I forget which is it, the top level where you get the bottle.
Yeah.
So if you get the bottle of mist, if you want, you can always use that to go back to the Blood of the Vine Inn.
Sure. That's just recall.
Yeah. Well.
Yes.
The bottle works well if you're not in Barovia.
Yes.
As well. So.
All right, there we go. We've covered them all. Anything you want to say in closing about Slayer areas?
Give them a try, especially if you're. I mean, if you're a real experienced player and you have, if you're a completionist or whatever, Slayer areas may not interest you as much. But if you're a newer player, you're looking for some, alone time with your character, as it were. They're a great way to, I want to play DDO tonight, but none of my guild is on. Jump in a Slayer area.
And it can be pretty easy to, throw up an LFM to get people in too, because one of the great things about Slayer areas is there's only one difficulty setting.
Right.
You can have a vet pop in and help you, and they can't pressure you at all into raising the difficulty level because there's only one.
And they could be the person that shows you the path.
Sure.
Okay. So here's the path. If you take this, and you can optimize your time. I mean, if you're like Patrick and I, you don't have just one character, and you can run different types of characters through. How does this character do? How does the cleric do? How does the rogue do? And so on. It's a great way to benchmark your characters too.
Just be aware if you do put up an LFM, this is the ones we've been talking about here. The mob density and difficulty does scale, so it's not. There's a little bit of a cost there, but if you run around the same person, you run with someone, you beef up your own parties too. So yeah,
and people can come and go.
That's a nice thing, right? It's you can join other people's groups and come and go as you please. It's not a big deal, so it works out pretty well.
No, give them a try. That's all I gotta say.
It's a great source of XP that I think a lot of people overlook too easily, especially when power game worlds will kind of focusing on when I'm in Epic, some King's Forest, Fortune of the Macabre, Rune to Thunderholm. Well, you missed all the other ones that you could get a bunch of XP from too.
Well, and
may
even
not be as efficient, but
even if you like running Reaper, well then do the Slayer areas on their minimum level. So if you go into Thunderholm on level, what was it? Whatever the minimum level, 20. Yeah, try that once. That'll see how well you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big difference between doing an epic one on 20 and doing it on 30.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thanks for joining us. Next time we'll have a new topic. Thanks, Evilbeeker, for helping record all these topics on Slayer areas and kind of
not a problem
getting through it. A lot of fun. They're a great great mechanic in the game. And one thing we didn't really mention too is that they really add a lot of feel to the game, right? See that you have to travel somewhere to get to the quest, which is very pen and papery. Sometimes a little annoying.
Yeah.
But it's fun to do at least once, right?
Yeah.
I like the Orchard Macabre actually has a mechanic where you can teleport to the quest after you've completed the quest. Probably wouldn't be a bad mechanic for just all of them, right?
There are a lot of MMOs that don't have this, where you literally have to run your brain off to get to something. And I like it that these are self-contained little worlds inside our big world.
All right, if you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and other fun stuff on our website. You can find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. If you'd like to join the discussion about this, you can leave a comment or you can email us, DDOCast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.